The call came at 2:47 in the morning. The night nurse on my mother's floor. She said, "Your mother is asking for you. Calling your name." And then she said something that made my blood go cold. "Your brother told us you had moved to Oregon." I had been sitting in my mother's hospice room 12 hours earlier. I had never been to Oregon in my life. My name is Helen Mosley. I'm 36 years old. I'm a senior accountant at a regional firm. I don't panic easily. I don't cry at desks. I deal in facts, in columns and figures, and things that can be verified. And what I found on my mother's nightstand 40 minutes after that phone call is the reason I'm telling you this story. I won't describe it yet. I want you to see it the way I saw it, in the same order I saw it, because the order is everything. Let me take you back first. Back to the night my brother flew in. Back to the 3 weeks that almost cost my mother her final dignity. The drive from my apartment to the hospice was 22 minutes if the lights cooperated and 26 if they didn't. I had measured it. By September, I had measured a lot of things. The third floor of the hospice smelled like clean laundry and lemon furniture polish, a smell I had known since elementary school, since the hallways of the building where my mother had taught third grade for 31 years. There was a juice machine at the end of the corridor that dispensed on 2 clicks, the second of which always sounded like a small, offended cough. I bought 2 cups every night. One for me, one for the trash. It was a habit I never fully explained to myself. My mother was Patricia Mosley. She had taught third grade from 1988 until her retirement, and her hands still knew how to hold a pencil even when her shoulders couldn't support the effort. She still corrected the way I cross my lowercase t. Pancreatic cancer is one that arrives late and leaves early. By the time we knew, the prognosis was 6 to 8 weeks. She entered the hospice on a Tuesday. I went that same night. I had gone every night since. The leather seat of my car was warm in August and cold in September, and I had learned the specific click of the parking garage door the way some people know the sound of their dog's bark. 46 times in 48 days. Third space after the lamppost. Every time. And then my brother arrived. Leland Mosley was 38 years old. He lived out west. He worked in finance, or had done recently. The details were always slightly vague when he told them, and I had not yet learned to hear that vagueness as the thing it was. He flew in on a Tuesday and told me he would stay as long as it took. In that moment, I thought it was a kind thing to say. Almost everything sounds kind when you want it to be. He took the day shift, more or less. I took the nights. We didn't overlap much. That, as I would come to understand, was precisely the point. The night nurse on the 3rd floor was named Brenda Hodgkins. She had worked the 11 to 7 shift for 9 years. The first time I walked past her station, she looked up and said, 47 of 49, honey. The housekeeping lady asks about you. I had missed a Sunday and a Tuesday. Tax deadline. My mother had understood. Brenda made a small mark in the log. She's awake. He's in there with her. I walked down the hall to room 312. The door was open, hospice policy. The wall lamp was on its lowest setting, the one that turned everything in the room the color of warm caramel. Leland was in the visitor's chair. He was wearing a button-down shirt, open collar. He smelled of sandalwood. A man who wears cologne to a hospice room is a man who hasn't sat in one long enough. He was closing his laptop when I walked in. One smooth motion. The way you close a book when you don't want anyone to see the cover. He stood, embraced me, said, "Hayla, I've been handling the paperwork. Don't worry about any of it." What paperwork? Insurance, hospice forms. The boring stuff. You have too much on your plate. I didn't have anything on my plate. My plate had been, for 49 days, this room. But I said nothing. I went to my mother and touched her wrist. Her hand was cool. Her eyes opened. "There you are," she said. "Here I am." She closed her eyes again. Leland watched me watch her. Then he watched the door. He had been watching the door before I walked in. I noticed that too. "Stay as long as you want," he said. "I'll go get something to eat." He didn't go to eat. He went to the parking garage. He took the laptop with him. The nightstand drawer in room 312 had standard hospital laminate on top and a handle that stuck at the 2nd centimeter of opening. I knew this because I opened it every night to leave the day's mail and the small cup of warm broth my mother never drank. The 3rd Wednesday after Leland arrived, I opened the drawer and found something I hadn't put there. A spiral-bound planner. The kind teachers used to buy at the supply store. The cover was faded blue, with the year stamped in gold foil. My mother's name was written inside the front cover in her schoolteacher's hand. Patricia A. Mosley. The letters tilted right, the same way she had taught third graders to tilt their cursive in 1988. I sat on the edge of the bed and opened it. She had been writing in it recently. Not every day, but most. A short note in her slowed, trembling hand for each entry. The morphine hadn't taken her writing, only slowed it. The slowness made the sentences sharper, not softer. I turned to the previous Tuesday. Helen brought soup. Stayed until 9. Wednesday. Helen brought magazines. The crossword one. Thursday. Helen stayed late. We watched the rain. Friday. Leland called. Didn't come. Saturday. Helen's soup. Sunday. Helen. Leland argued in the hallway about something. Helen left at 10. I closed the planner and put it back in the drawer. I kept my hand on the drawer for a moment. At the time, I thought it was something sweet. I thought she was keeping a small record of her last days, the way she had kept attendance for 31 years. I thought, my mother is the kind of woman who makes a list of who came. That's all. I did not think she was making that list for a reason. That was my error. I won't pretend it wasn't. When Leland came back from the parking garage, he was on his phone. He saw me, hung up, gave me the small prepared smile. Maybe I'll extend my stay another week. Lots to manage. Manage what? Just estate stuff. Paperwork. Preparations. You don't need to deal with any of it. All right, I said. He didn't notice the difference in my voice. He had stopped noticing differences in my voice the year before our father died and had never started again. The nursing aide was named Tasha. She was new to the floor, kind in the specific way new staff are kind, with deliberate eye contact and a careful cheerfulness. On the Saturday of the third week, I arrived early around 10 at night and she was outside 312 with a linen cart.
Her face lit up when she saw me.
Oh, you're Mrs. Mosley's sister. From Oregon. He said you'd fly in today. We didn't expect you so soon. I didn't move for a full second. I put on the polite half-smile I have used my entire professional life when a client says something that is mathematically impossible. I live 20 minutes from here, I said. I have been here every night since admission. Tasha's smile failed. She looked at the chart in her hand. She looked at me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Mosley said you had relocated for work in August. He's been telling us you couldn't come. I said, that's all right. It's not your fault. Could you tell me where Brenda is? Brenda was at the nurse's station with fresh coffee and the visit log open in front of her. I didn't say anything. She looked up, read whatever was on my face, and turned the log so I could see it. 47 nights. Then she pulled out a second folder, which she called the floor communication log, and opened it to entries from August 14th onward. Leland had told the day staff I had relocated for work in August. He had told the social worker. He had told the chaplain. He had been telling everyone on this floor for 3 weeks. I sat down in the wheeled chair beside her station. I did not cry. I was a senior accountant at a regional firm. I did not cry at desks. I hadn't cried at a desk since I was 23 years old. Brenda said, very quietly, if you ever need this log, honey, the record is the record. I drove home at 5:50 in the morning. I didn't sleep. I drank 2 cups of coffee. I called my cousin Carol at 7 a.m. sharp. She picked up on the first ring. I think she had been waiting for someone to call for a long time. She just didn't know it would be me. Carol Whitlock was 41 years old. She was a paralegal specializing in estates in the neighboring county. We had been close as children and politely distant as adults, the way cousins are. She listened to me describe the yellow notepad. I'm getting to that for 3 minutes without saying anything. Then she said one word. Holographic.
What?
That's what it's called. A holographic will. Handwritten. Some states recognize them. Ours is one of them. But there's a rule, Helen. Tell me the rule. The entire document has to be in the testator's hand. The body, every line, must be Mom's writing, not his. The signature alone isn't enough. If the body is written by Leland, the instrument is void. Not challengeable.
Void.
Carol, I know. I've seen 3 of these thrown out in the last 2 years. Probate courts hate this kind of thing. They love precision. The holographic instrument law is one of the clearest statutes there is. How do I prove whose handwriting it is? Forensic document examiner. There's a good one in the region. Mara Vendrell. I'll text you her contact. And you need an estate attorney. Jonas Wexler. He's old. He doesn't like drama. He files on time.
The court does the rest.
I wrote both names on the yellow legal pad I keep in my kitchen. My own yellow pad, because the supply store sells them $2 a pack. I wrote the date at the top the way my mother always did. Carol. I paused. Is he going to go to jail? She thought about it longer than I wanted her to. Probably not. Probate is civil. Criminal forgery is a separate track. Prosecutors don't take holographic cases unless the dollar figure is significant enough. A pause. He'll simply lose. In public. Quietly. That's how these things work. Is that enough? It has to be.
Yes, it does.
But before any of that, before Carol, before Jonas Wexler, before any of it, let me take you back to 2:47 a.m. I put on jeans. I didn't brush my hair. The highway lights were yellow at that hour, blinking in long, slow sequences for no one. I made 28 minutes in 24. I parked in the third space after the lamppost. Room 312 was lit only by the bathroom light, the door open about 4 inches. I pushed it gently. My mother was lying on her right side, the way she preferred. Her lips were moving. She was saying my name in that slow loop people use when they have a fever. Helen, 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 like a metronome that has forgotten the rest of the song. I'm here, I said.
I'm here, Mom.
Her eyes fluttered.
Closed.
I sat in the visitor's chair. The chair had a depression in the cushion on the right side, the side nearest the nightstand, where Leland had been sitting. I noticed that. I noticed that the nightstand had something on it I hadn't seen before. A yellow legal pad. A single strip of fluorescent light from the corridor fell across it like someone had placed a ruler on the page. I leaned forward and read the first line. Then the second. My hands went from warm to very cold. I did not read the rest. I took out my phone. The first photograph was taken at 3:12 a.m. The room was so quiet I could hear the shutter click in my own throat. I moved my chair to get a clean angle on each page and took 4 more photographs. Then I put my phone in my pocket, sat down, took my mother's hand in both of mine, and waited for the sun to come up. I read the document once. Once was enough. I read it start to finish at 6 a.m. in the 3rd floor waiting room with a cup of machine tea I didn't drink. 4 pages of yellow legal paper, written in a single sitting by the look of the letter slant. The opening line. I, Patricia and Mosley, being of sound mind, leave the entirety of my real and personal estate to my son, Leland James Mosley. The body of the will named the house, the small brokerage account, the savings, the contents of the safe deposit box at the credit union. It named no other heir. It named no daughter. It did not mention Helen. The signature on the last page was my mother's, trembling, faded, the kind of signature a person makes when her hand has stopped fully cooperating with her will. I knew that tremor. I had watched her sign her life insurance update 3 weeks earlier when the agent came for the renewal. The tremor was real. The signature was hers. The body of the will was not. My brother had a writing tic. He'd had it since middle school. His lowercase y was too long, the tail pulled down past the next line, like he was trying to reach the floor. My mother's y was a small cursive loop that closed back on itself. Her y had been the same since 1988. I knew this because I had a refrigerator full of her shopping lists in my apartment. I had saved them since I moved out at 22. The Y's gave him away. 47 of them across 4 pages. Every single one was Leland's. I sat in that waiting room for a long time. The tea went cold. The morphine pump at the end of the hall clicked every 6 minutes. I started counting the clicks between paragraphs while I transcribed the will line by line into the Notes app on my phone. Backup. Always backup. I'm an accountant. I have been a backup person my entire life. When I finished, I went back to room 312. My mother was sleeping lightly. Her hand was on the sheet. I held it.
She murmured something.
3 syllables soft. Thank you, sweetheart. I'll never know which of us she meant. I'd like to think it was me. I drove home. I called Carol. She had been waiting since 7 a.m. I called Jonas Wexler at 9. He was exactly as Carol had described, a tall, unhurried man with an office in a red brick building 2 towns over, a single fountain pen on his desk blotter, a wool jacket with elbow patches that were not for fashion, and a calendar on the wall with dates circled in 3 different colors of marker. He shook my hand once. I brought the planner, both copies.
Good, he said.
I keep one. You keep one. The original goes to your safe deposit box. He had already drafted 3 documents. A petition to preserve all records relating to my mother's care and any instrument purporting to make her testamentary wishes. A motion to block the transfer of medical power. A request for a probate hearing within 21 days. Will the court grant the hearing in time? I asked. They will. The calendar in this county isn't saturated. Your mother's prognosis is in the record. Nobody likes a hospice case dragging. He paused. How much is the deposit? $7,500. Initial retainer. I wrote the check. He took it without looking at it, folded it once, put it in his inside jacket pocket. Helen, one thing. From this point, communications from your brother go through me. If he calls, don't answer. If he texts, don't respond. If he leaves a voicemail, save it and send me the file. If he comes to your door, don't open it. You may be polite. You cannot be conversational. A pause.
He'll try.
He came to your apartment 3 times already this week. I know. I kept the log.
Good.
He looked at the petition. Then he looked up. Your mother said to give you her regards. I stared at him. She told me you'd say that. He smiled, a small smile, private, the kind that comes when a student gets an answer right after struggling with it all week. I went to high school with her sister. She was a person, Helen.
He paused.
That was a person. Mara Vendrell's office was a converted dental clinic on the 2nd floor of a strip mall. She had taken it over when the dentist retired in 2011 and never bothered repainting the walls, which were still the soft green of a 1990s waiting room. Her own office smelled of graphite and lemon cleaner, like my 2nd grade classroom before parents' night. She was past 70, reading glasses on a chain. She told me she had testified in 241 cases. Not with pride. The way a librarian tells you about her card catalog system. I gave her 3 things. The original 4-page, on the yellow legal pad. 18 months of entries from my mother's planner. And 3 years of Leland's tax return signatures I had pulled from the family files in the safe deposit box. She worked for 9 days. She called me on the 10th. Miss Mosley. My findings are tentative pending court review. The signature on page 4 matches the hand of Patricia Mosley. The tremor is consistent with her documented morphine pattern. A pause. The body of the document does not match her hand. Pages 1 through 4. No match to any sample I have. The hand of Leland Mosley. Highly consistent. Slant, pressure, letter formation. His tax signatures, and 2 supplementary samples. How certain are you? Highly certain. That's the term I use in plain language when I mean certain. I'll write the affidavit in standard expert terminology. The court will hear, consistent with a high degree of certainty. I never say certain, but this is as close as I get. She paused. Then, in a different voice, your mother's handwriting is a teacher's. It slopes at 88 degrees. She was a good teacher.
Yes, she was.
Mr. Wexler will have my report Monday. The call from the hospice administrator came on a Tuesday morning. His name was Dale Thornton. He was around 50, soft-voiced, the kind of man whose desk had 3 pen cups and all of them were empty. He had a pen in his hand he wasn't writing with. Helen.
Sit down.
This isn't medical. I have to follow procedure. I want you to know that's what I'm doing. He opened a folder. Inside was a petition Leland had filed with the Hospice Social Services Unit. The power over medical decisions. The language was clinical. It alleged I was estranged, unstable, possibly abusive. It claimed my visits were causing distress to the patient. It requested that the hospice limit my visitation to supervised daytime hours only. 3 staff statements were attached. None from Brenda. None from the night chaplain. None from anyone who worked the evening shift.
He wants to keep me out at night, I said.
Dale looked at me steadily. He wants to keep you out when he isn't here. A pause.
I can't comment on that.
I can only act on documentation. You have 48 hours to respond in writing. My medical director makes the call.
Dale.
Have you read Brenda's notes? I have. Have you read the chaplain's notes? I have those too. He looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with me. Helen, I run a unit where families bring the worst of themselves through that door. I'm not paid to take sides. But my medical director reads the record. So does the social worker, who walks this floor. A pause. Fortunately for both of you, your mother has spent a lifetime documenting. He looked at me carefully. Present your response. In writing. On time. Don't yell at anyone.
Don't email me.
Don't email anyone on this floor. Bring it by hand. He paused one final time. And Helen, if you have an attorney's letterhead, bring it. It'll save my medical director 2 phone calls. I had Wexler's letterhead. He had sent me a template the day before. I filled it in at my kitchen table that night with the planner open beside me. I delivered the response at 8 a.m. on Wednesday. Dale signed the receipt himself. The hospice chapel was on the 2nd floor, 1 elevator stop from my mother's room. 6 pews. Carpet the color of oatmeal. A row of electric candles in red glass holders on a timer that made them flicker in irregular patterns. One of those candles was 30 seconds out of sync with the rest. I liked it more than the others. It seemed to have its own ideas. I sat there for 20 minutes on the Friday after Dale's office. I didn't pray. I don't have a religion to bring to that room. I just needed somewhere that hadn't been a battlefield. The chapel was the only place on that floor that hadn't. The chaplain came in around the 18th minute. She didn't sit beside me. She sat in the pew ahead and didn't turn around, which was the kindest gesture anyone made to me that month. Her name was Margaret Lattimore.
Maggie.
She was nearly 70, a Quaker, 16 years in the hospice. I sit with your mother 3 times a week, she said after a moment.
Yes.
She mentioned you. She mentions everyone. A pause. She mentioned a piece of paper. I went still in the pew. I stared at the back of her gray head. She didn't turn. She said, "He keeps bringing me papers. I don't read them anymore. My eyes are tired. He says they're for the insurance." A pause. I wrote that in my chaplaincy log. The Tuesday before last. And the week before. Same thing. A longer pause. I write everything down. I don't decide what it means. That's not my job.
Maggie.
If I ever need a sworn statement, Helen, I'll sign one. I won't invent anything. I'll write only what I logged the day I logged it. That's all I can offer. It's enough. It usually is. She stood. People underestimate what enough looks like. She didn't look at me as she passed. She put her hand briefly on the back of my pew and left. 2 days before the hearing, Wexler called me at my office. He never called me at my office. Helen, get into a conference room. What happened? Your brother filed a second instrument with the probate court this morning. A typed will. Signed, notarized, dated 14 months ago. It appears clean at first glance. He's arguing the holographic document was a redundant draft made when she was frightened and disoriented. Jonas. I did not panic. Read me the notary commission number on the document. He sent the scan. I opened it on my phone in the conference room. The notary's seal was crisp. 8-digit commission number. I read it aloud. 90 seconds of silence. I could hear him typing with 2 fingers. Helen.
Yes.
That commission expired 8 months before the date on this document. The notary was sanctioned, not renewed. State board record. Free website search. The notary on this document had no commission on the day he supposedly sealed it. What does that mean? It means the typed instrument was not properly executed. A will requires a valid notary for the presumption of due execution. He doesn't get that presumption. The burden of proof shifts to him. He has to show this document is what it claims to be through independent witness testimony. A pause. He won't manage it. The witness signatures are illegible scrawls. No printed names. We can't even subpoena who they were. It's sloppy, Helen. He's panicking. He gave us a second forgery to prove the first.
His voice was dry.
That's the kind of mistake panic makes. Don't celebrate. Just file. We'll add this to the petition tonight. Mara already noticed something in her supplemental review. The signature on the typed instrument matches the signature on the holographic. Same tremor pattern. He either guided her hand or signed it himself using her pattern as a model. The expert will see it. The court will see it. I sat in the empty conference room for a moment. The air conditioning clicked on with a small hiss. Jonas. Yes. He's done, isn't he? He was done 4 pages ago, Helen. He just hasn't accepted the phone call yet. A pause. Go back to your desk. Work through lunch. Feel solid. That's all you need to do today. The county probate courtroom was small. 2 rows of benches on each side. A wooden bench at the front. A ceiling fan that was slightly off-center, so it wobbled rather than turned, like a bird cocking its head at a sound it didn't trust. Judge Warren Hartley presided. 76 years old. Quaker upbringing. A face that had been seasoned by 31 years of estate cases. Leland came in with his attorney, a man from a firm 2 states over, wearing a suit that was too elegant for this room. Leland wore a button-down shirt, open collar. He sat erect.
He didn't look at me.
Wexler had a single manila folder, blue tabs on the edges. He set it on the table. The opposing attorney spoke for 15 minutes. He called the holographic instrument the true will of Patricia. He used the word intention 11 times. He called no witnesses. He finished his opening. Wexler stood. He didn't button his jacket. Your Honor, the petitioning party has submitted 2 instruments. We are prepared to demonstrate that neither survives basic legal scrutiny. He opened the folder. Exhibit A. Visit log. Notarized copy. 47 of 49 nights. Helen Mosley. 47 of 49. The other 2, she was absent for a tax filing deadline. It was read into the record. Exhibit B. Brenda Hotchkins, night nurse.
Called to the stand.
She took the oath. 1 question. Miss Hotchkins, over the 6 weeks of Patricia Mosley's care, who visited her at night? Helen Mosley. Every night I worked. 47 of 49. The other 2 she was out. You may step down. Exhibit C. The personal planner of Patricia Mosley. 18 months, authenticated by the testator's own hand and cross-referenced with the visit log. Exhibit D. Margaret Lattimore. Sworn chaplain's affidavit. Read into the record. 3 signed, notarized statements. Active commission, verified. Exhibit E. Mara Vendrell. Forensic document examiner, testifying by video. 12 minutes. Body of the holographic instrument, highly inconsistent with Patricia Mosley's documented hand. Highly consistent with Leland Mosley's. Signature on the holographic, consistent with Patricia Mosley, tremor matching documented medication. Signature on the typed will. The same tremor. The same hand. The same day, in her expert professional opinion, as the holographic signature. Exhibit F. State Notary Board expiration record. The opposing attorney stood and walked to Wexler in the aisle. We're prepared to stipulate to intestate distribution, he said. Both instruments withdrawn. Estate passes by statute. Wexler's response was quiet and final. Your client may withdraw whatever he likes. I will make my closing argument for the record. I want the court's findings on this document, not a private agreement that lets your client save face. The court makes an official finding, or my client goes home. The attorney looked at me. I looked at Wexler. Wexler did not look at me. The attorney went back in and consulted with Leland. Leland's hand came up to his face once, then fell. He nodded. The hearing resumed. Judge Hartley took 10 minutes. He had written his findings during the recess on his bench laptop. He read them in the same voice he might have used to read aloud to a grandchild. The light through the courtroom window fell across his desk in one long, warm rectangle. The court has reviewed the petitioner's submissions and the respondent's evidence. The court finds as follows. The instrument submitted as a holographic will fails in form. The body of the document is not in the testator's hand, pages 1 through 4, by clear and convincing evidence. The signature alone is insufficient under the state's holographic will statute. The instrument is void. The court further finds that the typed instrument submitted as a confirmatory will fails for improper execution. The notary public whose seal appears on the document held no commission on the date of execution. Witness signatures are unidentifiable and cannot be authenticated. The instrument is void. Both instruments are stricken. The estate of Patricia and Mosley will pass through intestate succession under the laws of this state. The court takes no pleasure in this finding. No pleasure in any of this. But the law regarding holographic instruments is precise for a reason. He stood. He went through the door behind the bench. The ceiling fan wobbled in its small, irregular circle. Leland did not look at me. I did not look at Leland. Wexler closed his folder. We did not celebrate in the hallway. We did not celebrate in the parking lot. He shook my hand once. Helen, you won the case you needed to win. Don't try to win one you don't. I know. Go to your mother. I drove to the hospice. Brenda was at the station. She had been waiting. She didn't say anything. She walked me down the hall, slower than my pace, and when we reached room 312 she touched my shoulder once and stepped back. My mother was sleeping. The afternoon light was on her hands. I had the planner with me. The original, returned by Wexler after it was admitted as evidence. I sat on the edge of the bed. I opened it to the last entry. A Tuesday. 2 weeks ago. I sat in that chair until evening. Brenda came in at 11. She didn't say anything. She smoothed my mother's blanket. She wrote the entry in the visit log in her usual blue ballpoint. Helen Mosley, 1:43 p.m. to present. Patricia Mosley resting comfortably. I left at 3 a.m. I left the planner on my mother's chest. Her hands held it through the night. She died 3 days later. A Saturday morning, for 18 a.m. Brenda was on shift. Brenda was the one who held her hand. The planner was still on her chest. Brenda removed it gently, folded it, and placed it in the zip seal bag the hospice uses for personal effects. Then she walked to the nurse's station and called me at 4:21. She let go, Brenda said.
It was easy.
I'll be here when you come. I drove 28 minutes. I sat with my mother. Brenda sat with me. We didn't talk much. The morning came up over the building. The juice machine down the hall made its 2 clicks. The second click sounded like a small, offended cough. The funeral was at a small home 10 kilometers from the hospice. 18 people came. My mother's 2 sisters. 3 women from her teaching career, women in their 70s with cardigans they'd worn to her retirement party. A neighbor. Carol. Wexler without his folder, in a black suit, with his sister, who had my mother's eyes. Brenda. Maggie, who led the service in a low voice that didn't tremble. The funeral home organ hadn't been tuned since spring. Someone played a hymn, anyway. The hymn was the one my mother used to sing at the kitchen sink in 1986, washing the breakfast dishes. I remembered the dishes. I remembered the song. Leland was there. He stayed at the back. Button-down shirt, open collar. He didn't come forward. He didn't speak to anyone. He signed the guest book. I watched him sign it. He used his real hand. His lowercase y pulled down past the line. After the service, Maggie walked me to the parking lot. She had a small folded piece of paper. She left a note, Maggie said. It was about a week before the end. I wasn't sure when to give it to you. I'm sure now. The note was 3 lines in my mother's handwriting. Slow, but clean. Tell Helen I knew. Tell Helen I'm proud of who came. The word knew was underlined twice. Maggie said she wrote it on a Tuesday. She said the underline was deliberate. She said she wanted me to know which Tuesday it was. It was the Tuesday after the chapel. The day after Maggie wrote her entry in the chaplaincy log. I put the note in my bag and drove home. The estate took 4 months to close. Intestate distribution in our state, with no surviving spouse and 2 adult children, is equal shares. Leland received approximately $340,000. I received approximately $340,000. Carol explained the math twice. The second time I understood it. The first time I had been thinking about my mother's planner on the second shelf of my bookcase, where she taught me cursive, where I still write on yellow paper, where I still sign my letters in the same blue ink Brenda used in the visit log. I don't think those 2 women know each other. I think the world sometimes just decides to use the same coloring for kindness. I went back to my firm 3 weeks after the funeral. My team didn't ask questions. People in audit work have a practiced silence about other people's grief. They left a card on my desk. They didn't watch me read it. That was the kindness. I kept the planner. I kept Brenda's notes in the same folder. I kept Maggie's affidavit in a separate one. I kept Mara's report in a third. The folders are on the second shelf of my bookcase. I don't look at them. I know where they are. That's enough. 3 months after the funeral, in December, Leland sent a Christmas card. Red envelope. Return address, a post office box in a town I'd never heard of. He had signed it with his full name. Leland, not Lee. His full name. I put the card in my kitchen drawer. The bottom one where I keep stamps and rubber bands and take out menus I never order from. I didn't open it. I've never opened it. It's still there. I think I'll throw it away someday. I think that day won't be a special one. I think it'll be a Tuesday in March when I'm cleaning the drawer for some other reason entirely. I haven't spoken to my brother. I don't think I'll speak to my brother.
I don't feel cruel about that.
I don't feel virtuous either. I feel like a woman who has set a table where it belongs and moved into the next room. Some limits don't need to be announced. They only need to be kept. 2 years after my mother died, I drove to the hospice on a Wednesday in early September. I brought a paper bag with 30 pairs of wool socks. Brenda had called the week before and told me the night shift was always short on socks for patients in their final days. The feet go cold first, she said, and the unit budget never covers it. I bought them at the same supply store where my mother had bought her grade book. Brenda was at the nurse's station, still with 2 pens. She wore reading glasses now. She took the bag with both hands and said, "Honey, you didn't have to." "I know. Sit for a minute." I sat. We didn't talk much. We never had. The lemon cleaner smell was the same. The juice machine was the same. It still made 2 clicks. The second one still sounded like a small, offended cough. I drove home at midnight. I took Highway 14 because it was the road I knew. The yellow blinker at the Route 9 intersection was the same yellow blinker that had been blinking at 2:47 a.m. on a Wednesday in early September, 2 years before, when I drove this road in jeans with unbrushed hair because a night nurse called and said my mother was asking for me. The light blinked in its long, slow sequence. I drove through it. I kept going. Some things don't need a final word. They just need you to keep showing up, 47 nights out of 49, or every September, or whenever the call comes, until the record speaks for itself. My mother knew that. She spent 31 years teaching it to other people's children. She taught it to me too. I just needed a little longer to understand which lesson it was.